Writing and AI is something that a lot of people are talking about at the moment. It's a bit of a hot topic. So I'm really happy to be talking to Lucy McCarraher, who is from BookMagic AI. And it's a tool that helps you to write your book from scratch in minutes. Rather than just taking ages and ages to write it yourself, you can use AI to help you with certain aspects of it. Now, I know this is quite controversial for a lot of people. So we talk about some of the morals behind using AI for writing, some of the reasons why you might use AI for writing, and some use cases why you might not use AI for writing as well. It's a really fascinating episode, and Lucy is like one of the experts in this area. So I've been looking forward to getting on for a long time. So I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Publishing Performance Show. I'm here with Lucy McCarraher, who is the founder of Rethink Press and BookMagic AI. And she's also the author of 13 books, and she is the UK's most experienced business book mentor. So thank you for joining us, Lucy.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here.
So you're the most experienced business book mentor. What do you mean by that?
Well, over the last 12 years, I think, I have taken probably over 2,000 entrepreneurs, business leaders, founders of small businesses through the process of writing a book to build their business. I've developed a process to help people do that, and I've refined it with, loads and loads of people. So getting lots of feedback on what works for people and what doesn't. And I think I'm pretty sure that is more than any other business book mentor that I know of.
It's more than anyone I know of, definitely.
Few years.
So your background is in business books. Is that so? Why don't we talk a bit about your background and what led you to writing the type of books you do today?
Okay, well, my background is is pretty varied. I started off actually publishing a theatre magazine in Australia when I was still a student, and that I did that for 8 years with my ex-husband, and then we'd gone out to Australia for a lecturing job for him, and then we came back to the UK, and then we went into television and video, and we developed something. I mean, it sounds like it's all books again, but we developed something that at that time we called the video book, which was actually the very first time people had done a kind of how-to videos. So we did cooking with Prue Leith, we did gardening with Alan Titchmarsh, and those were
for our American listeners. Those are quite famous people
that
in the
you
UK.
bought in Woolworths, W.H. Smith, and that was sort of my next kind of 10 years, and then I weirdly went into the area of work-life balance and became kind of, by complete accident, became a consultant in work-life balance. And that was when I wrote my first book, I was commissioned to write 2 books, one for businesses and one for individuals. So the first book I actually had published was called The Book of Balanced Living. And it sounds, these days it sounds really it makes it seem all so old, but work-life balance was a new concept at that point. So it was kind of breaking new ground. But it was, in fact, funnily enough, it was turned out to be a sort of template for the business books that I mentor people through now.
Right. Okay. So the types of people who would come to you to get to write a business book, who would they be? Industry experts and people like that, and want to build their reputation? Is that your target audience?
Yes, exactly. I mean, they're usually founders of small businesses. And when I say small businesses, I don't necessarily mean startups, but I mean small businesses that have probably a 6 or 7 figure turnover by now. And they've expanded to a stage where they kind of need something to be a game changer and take them on to the next stage. And we found that actually becoming an author and writing your own book is something that they often haven't thought of. But when they do it, it really makes a difference. It really builds their authority, their credibility. And they have a book that then goes out there, and I always call their book their undercover sales agent, because I'm totally against a book that is just kind of a marketing brochure in disguise. I mean, that's no good to anybody. But a book that has real value in it, but maybe very niche in terms of the business's market. So that's how we, and of course a lot of these entrepreneurs are not writers by trade. No. So they're the experts in their field, but they don't really know often how to start writing or even, go through the process. of writing a book. And so that's where I have come in and found that I'm able to kind of break down the process and take them through so that they actually end up with a really valuable book, and a book that they're proud of, and a book that, is kind of, their legacy, but also really, really works to help them build their business and their visibility as a key person in their industry.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from. And that's why my business partner, Joe Gregory, and I started Rethink Press, which is a hybrid publisher. We specialize in business books. We started off publishing, we published a few novels and other things, but we've we ourselves have niched down to a market of this sort of entrepreneurial and expert author market. And so we publish books for expert entrepreneurs. And because, obviously a traditional publisher is looking for a wide market book, is looking to sell as many copies as possible. So the hybrid business model for publishing, where the author pays up front to get their book professionally created, edited, designed, etc., and published, works very well for them, because we're not a gatekeeper. We're not a gatekeeper publisher. Anybody who's got a good book to write, and obviously we don't publish rubbish, but we ensure that the books are well written, they're well edited, they're well produced. Then of course, but you don't have to then have sell lots of copies in order for your book to be successful and valuable for what you want it to do.
So Rethink Press, if an author or an entrepreneur, for example, comes to you and they've got this idea for a book, you handhold them through that whole process of like getting that book written, structuring the book, and then the publishing process and getting it out there as well.
Yes, that's right. Rethink Press is also unique in that we realised that, we started with the publishing end of things, because people came to us with their books written, and then, we were able to publish them. But we also realised there were a lot more people out there who wanted to write their book, but didn't know how to do that. So, two things happened. One was that we started working with the Key Person of Influence programme, where uniquely, again, I think publishing a book is part of the program. It's kind of part of the accelerator curriculum, if you like. So I became the publish mentor for the KPI program. But also we developed at Rethink Press a team of coaches, of writing coaches and ghostwriters who could help entrepreneurs and business owners to write their books and plan their books. So I don't know any other publisher, hybrid or traditional, that actually has a team of coaches as part of their team and their process.
That is really interesting, because obviously publishing is quite a daunting process for a lot of people. And these entrepreneurs who have got this great idea, they might want some extra help with all those different steps, because a lot of concepts are quite foreign. Like, for example, what's a proposal? What's the query letter? What do those concepts mean? Especially if this is just something I was talking about yesterday, but I just didn't really know what that process was, being self-published entirely myself. But publishing has loads of these strange like jargons that you don't necessarily understand if you're coming at it from the first time.
No, I think it really is quite alien, and people are quite scared of it. Or on the other hand, sometimes people think, self-publishing is really easy. All I've got to do is, here I write my book and whack it up on KDP and get a cover designed on Fiverr. But there's a back end to publishing that is also more complicated than people realise, I think. So, there's that end of things as well, that at Rethink Press, that's part of what we do for people, for our authors.
Now, obviously, as you mentioned, you're a hybrid publication at publishers at Rethink Press. So there's upfront investment. So it's more for people who have got that idea and they really want to invest in that in their business going forward. But I'm guessing you got all of that knowledge that you've built up over the years from working through Rethink Press and built it into a tool that people can use by themselves, and that's what BookMagic AI is.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it suddenly occurred to me when AI started kind of coming in and being, I think it was really the beginning of last year when suddenly people said, "Oh, look, there's ChatGPT, look what it can do."
Yeah.
And it suddenly occurred to me that actually you could create something really user friendly and helpful to people writing their books, but not with the AI actually doing the writing, because, well, I think there's numerous reasons why that's not a good idea, but it can do some really helpful things. So we teamed up with a fantastic app designer called Jonathan Farrar, and he was actually wanting to write his own book. So he was kind of invested in the idea of
He made it for
creating
himself.
an app that would, yes, that would help him as well as other people. And it's turned out to be a brilliant partnership because he totally gets the process. And I think perhaps, I mean, one of the most important things, I think, is that people often think that writing a book is a sort of big amorphous project that you kind of go away. The writer is the creative who has to get in flow and go and sit in their lonely garret scribbling or tapping away. And, there's no kind of structure to it. And actually what I've found over the years is the most important thing in a way is to break it down into discrete stages so that you never get overwhelmed. Because I think one of the reasons people don't start is because it's overwhelming and they don't know how to. But then a lot of people start their book and kind of get a few chapters in and then like, oh, it's all gone crazy. This is chaotic. I don't know where
Yeah.
to go next. And actually, if you break every single bit down, from positioning your book to your ideal market to planning your book in detail before you start writing, and then writing in distinct kind of phases, so writing your first draft first without doing any editing, and then going back to edit, and then sharing it with a few beta readers, and then doing a final edit. That's our sort of our writing stages. It just helps people keep on track. And in the app, with AI support and suggestions and ideas and planning, and also having a schedule as well, and reminders, and the word count there all the time, it just kind of keeps people on track. And that's how it works so well. And I'm sorry to say, I think the app actually does it better than I do in person.
I'm sure that's not true, but so BookMagic basically takes someone who's got a book idea, it walks them through step by step exactly how to get a book written, how to get it published, and also the AI helps them with writing some of the words, or is it more about the structure? Maybe you could.
What we've done in BookMagic is we've enabled people to ask the AI. So what we do is we get them to create their ideal reader avatar, and by telling the app a lot of it asks a lot of questions, so there's a lot of information going in there. And then in the writing process, you can actually ask the AI, what should I say about this subject? What have I missed? What do you, as my ideal reader, what do you want to hear about this subject? So it gives lots of ideas, and you can ask it to give a summary or a kind of a run through of a particular subject, but we don't allow you to copy and paste it into your actual manuscript, because
Right,
I
okay.
think certainly at this point, and I suspect going forward, I think it's just too dangerous well, for a start, I mean, most publishers will not publish AI generated content.
No,
I
and
mean, we
Amazon does
won't.
actually ask you if you've
And
written your
Amazon
book with
asks as
AI as they
well,
upload. Yeah.
yes, and you have to. But also, I mean, I just think at the moment there is too much danger of potentially breaching other people's copyright. We really don't know where it's coming from. You have to check the AI content so carefully because of its hallucinations and its inventions, and you don't know where it's getting stuff from. It doesn't. I mean, most of it. I mean, some of them are better than others at referencing,
Yeah.
but sometimes you don't know where it's taken stuff from or whether it's actually come from another source. So anyway, our whole kind of attitude is you need to write the book yourself. Use AI to help you research and plan and get ideas, but actually write the book yourself. Because in fact, the kinds of books that we are helping people write and publish are books about their own process, about what they do and why they do it, their own experience, their expertise, case studies with their real clients. So that's the stuff that AI can't get to, They have
Yeah.
to get that out of their head themselves. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly written, because that's what professional editors are for.
Yeah.
And at this point, I still think, human editors are better than AI editors.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's our sort of stance in BookMagic.
So if I say I came to BookMagic and I've got an idea for a book, what would be my first step? What would be the first tool I'd use?
Okay, so the first tool you use might be something that seems a bit tangential. So what we ask you to do first is to go through a values exercise and sort of establish what are your main personal or even business values, and how do those relate to the content of your book, and what you want to do with it, and how you're going to get through the process of writing it. So it might seem tangential, but actually it allows the AI to create a very nice kind of introduction for you to why you're writing your book. And I mean, that's not going in the book. It's just a really nice sort of summary by your AI coach of why you're doing what you're doing. So it's a kind of soft landing starting point. It's not difficult to do. It's just kind of, getting you into the kind of arena of your ideas and your values. And then we get into the positioning. I mean, the first real kind of solid book work is where you position your ideal client. You kind of you answer all the questions about who they are in terms of maybe demographics or roles in business, or what kind of area of business. I mean, you might be writing a B2B book, or you might be writing a B2C book, but just getting that very, very clear. And then also talking about your business and what you do, and then that helps the AI to really position your book. I mean, we have this thing called the 3 Ps of position, which are person, so that's the ideal client or reader; pain, the problem that they have when they come looking for your expertise; and promise. And
Okay.
that's what you are giving in your book to get them from pain to not pain. And also those 3 Ps we find really helps with the genre of books that we're writing. It really helps create a great title and subtitle that tells the ideal reader, that this is the book for them.
So before any outlines written or anything like that, you have a section where you create the positioning for the book and you create your values for the book. And does the AI take that information that you've put in and adapt it or input it into your book? So when you do come to start writing it, it says, oh, actually, no, Teddy, one of his values is honesty. I mean, that's quite a basic one.
Yeah.
One of his values is honesty.
Yes, and you've lied a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, one of his values is honesty. And is the book now getting to that point? Is it accepting that as one of the values inside the book, and that's what the AI does, or is it just an exercise for you to do?
Well, it probably doesn't take a moral stance on that really, but it does. It does help in that it has all that data. So when you start asking questions about, say, I want to cover this topic in this chapter, what do you think I should? What would my ideal client like to know? What order should it go in? Then it takes all that into account as well. So it's just there as kind of background knowledge and information that it might, throw back at you as a way of getting your content across.
That's interesting. So say, for example, if I was writing a book and my target audience was retired people, just for example, and in my book, I kept writing and I was using very much like Gen Z language, it might say, oh, actually, this isn't the right positioning for your book and you should be thinking about this sort of wording.
Yes, I mean, it can do that because, and also you can set the AI, you can set how the AI kind of responds to you, if you like. So you can say at the beginning, I mean, you can choose an AI coach. I mean, I'm one of them, but we've got kind of 5 other AI who are, they're just our AI coaches who will be in the videos and talk to you. But you can also ask how you want the AI to respond linguistically. So do you want formal language? Do you want informal language? Do you want it to be chatty? So it will also kind of help you, with that kind of thing as well, with your tone. And yes, possibly. I mean, you can ask it things like, is this too technical for my ideal client?
Right,
Have I used, too much jargon? And it will, give you a response on that.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Or you could say, can you rewrite this so it's less jargony?
Yeah.
And it will give you, I mean, then again, the idea is, as I say, not to copy and paste it into your manuscript, but to get ideas from it, and to generally you'd have to rework that yourself a bit, but I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, of course. Now, obviously, writing is quite a long process. Even if you're
Yeah.
only writing a book that's 40 or 50,000 words, that's 10 times the length of your university dissertation, and people, that might be the longest thing that anyone's ever written.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I mean, yeah.
yeah, I mean, have you noticed that people have been able to save a lot of time by using this sort of tool?
Yes, I mean that's the good thing. I mean our kind of strapline has always been author faster, and
Okay.
it certainly helps to plan out your book in detail in advance. So when I say plan, I don't just mean chapter headings and then, fill them in roughly as you go. It's literally within each chapter, it's every topic you're going to cover, every case study, perhaps every reference you're going to make, every piece of data you're going to include. So we've got a lovely kind of planning system that helps you do that in the first place, and that really then speeds up the writing process. But
Hmm.
also we break, as I said, we break down the it's called the writer process. So we ask people to write their first draft by doing an hour's writing a day, or 5 days a week, or whatever it is, or whatever, or getting into a writing habit that is little and often, because I think that is a much better way to write, as you say, 40 odd thousand words, than to kind of take yourself off on a writing retreat and try and do it all in a week, because you need processing time as well. So if you take it topic by topic and you take it slowly, I mean, what we say is get into the writing habit that works for you. So some people, I mean, the one that works mostly for most people, but not everybody, is in fact to get up an hour early, go straight to your computer, laptop, whatever, and write for an hour, and then start your day normally. And don't look at your email before you start, and don't do anything else. Don't even necessarily kind of shower or anything. Just write from the minute you get up.
Yeah,
But
I'm
then
so
there are
guilty of
other
that, of just
people.
getting up and going straight to my emails and
Yeah, I know. And then of course, if you go straight to your email, you're just totally distracted, and you probably never get back to writing that day.
yeah.
But for some people, it's lunchtime. For some people, it's in the evening when everyone else has gone to bed, say. And I mean, some people take it in really tiny chunks, so they might, when they've got, I mean, the great thing about BookMagic is it works on every platform. So you can just have your phone, you can, you're sitting waiting somewhere for 10 minutes, open your phone and write for the next 10 minutes. Oh, and also you can also dictate rather than, you don't have to write. I mean, obviously that's not great if you're in public, but but for a lot of people, I think writing itself is a barrier. I mean, obviously there are people who may be dyslexic, people for whom English is not their first language, and people who just don't enjoy actual writing. I
Yeah.
think it's really important that they understand they can write their book by, if speaking is their sort of first means of expression, if you like, their best means of expression, then speak your book, and it will just write it up on the screen as you speak. So no excuses, basically.
I'm really sorry. Sorry, my daughter is about to run in. Give me just 2 seconds.
That's absolutely fine.
I'm sorry. I've got a
No,
2-year-old
no,
and
it's
she
absolutely
is very
completely.
difficult. Yeah. Where were we? Sorry. Great. So that's really interesting about the organizing your time and just making sure you are being more efficient with the time you have. Now, if I was a entrepreneur or business owner, or I've got an idea, I want to write a business book, but maybe I don't have too much of an idea of exactly what my book's going to be just yet. How much information do you think I would need to bring to something like BookMagic in order to create a book?
You would need very little information in terms of an actual idea, because what we are suggesting in BookMagic, especially for a first-time author of an entrepreneur or a business owner, is to write about your business.
Okay.
So the 3 P's of position bit are what we use to say this is what your book should be about. You're writing a book for your ideal client. What is their problem, and what can you tell them? And that is your first book.
Yeah.
So it's kind of about where you're up to now. Essentially, you're looking to write a book that will align with and sort of sell, in inverted commas, the business you're going to be running for the next couple of years.
Yeah, of course.
So
Now,
it's not about sort of selling your services, but it is about explaining to people why you do what you do. And it's not I mean, we tend to suggest that people don't write kind of manuals. So, it's not a sort of step by step, this is how you do what I do. It's about giving them the reasons why they should do it like that, how you do it. I think what's really important is to put lots of case studies in so that an ideal kind of reader thinks, oh yeah, that's the position I'm in. That's the problem I've got. I can see what they're doing in real life. I need to go back to that person and get them to help me. And
yeah.
that's kind of the underlying sort of point of writing this kind of book.
Yeah, of course. Now, obviously, as we had, I think 2,000 books you mentioned of people you've worked with. Now, most of these are business books, obviously. So that positioning part, have you got any tips for how business owners can come up with that positioning for their books?
Well, I think it really is. I mean, the most important thing is to think about who your ideal client is to really clarify that, and just then in your head write to one person who exemplifies that person, and
Okay.
obviously a lot of other people will find it valuable, and the content will be incredibly helpful to them. But if you think about the kind of avatar of an ideal client, and you write to that person, and you speak on a one-to-one basis. I think one of the issues that people have with writing a first book is that they feel a book needs to go out there and talk to as many people as possible and sell as many copies as possible. But if you think about it, every single instance of somebody reading your book is a one-to-one interaction. It's you talking to one other person, not a massive group of people. We don't do book reading as a group activity.
Yeah.
So it's really important to understand that you just talk to someone as if they were in the room, pretty much. I mean, obviously, you need to edit edit your conversational style to some degree, but talk to that one person, and then your reader will get to know, like, and trust you. They're spending sort of 4 or 5 or 6 hours in your company, finding out who you are and what you do, and kind of absorbing your values, which are kind of going to be in there by osmosis, but also finding out how you work really positively with your client for the kind of outcomes that they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Now, once you've got your book written, you've worked on your manuscripts. The next part is obviously getting it marketed, getting it sold. Now, I know BookMagic does work with your covers as well and some of that marketing point. So how does that exactly work? Does the AI just read your manuscripts and think, okay, here's some good ideas, some book covers?
Yeah, I mean the book. I'm not sure if the book covers are up and running yet, but they're about to be. But to be honest, I haven't actually tested that bit myself.
All right, we'll leave
But
that.
I mean, for the promotional, the sort of PR, the marketing stuff that you can get already out of BookMagic, and it's going to get bigger, is you can click on any topic or chapter or case study in your book and get a whole load of social media posts written about it, or a blog post. I did it the other day with my first chapter. I said, write a blog post on this. And I just produced a really, and there's no problem with using AI to write that kind of content, because that's not a copyrighted published book. I'd be perfectly happy to use AI for articles, blog posts, social media content, and it just does that. It took like half a minute to come up with a 1,000-word blog, and I was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, I still think it is worth editing those when you do AI to do blog posts, because I've done a lot of blogging in my time, and Google can see where plagiarism has occurred. They
Right.
do it in the back end. They can really quickly see, okay, this has got like 25% plagiarism, and it's really straightforward for them to do that. So
Yeah.
I'd be careful about just going. I mean, I'd never recommend people just get AI and just put it straight anywhere, because
No,
as you
no,
mentioned,
I completely agree with you on that. I mean, I would always want to. I mean, it's going to have probably used the word elevate about 6 times. That it has various
yeah,
kind of
delve.
stylistic ticks that you don't want to have. But the other thing is that it's taking the content exclusively from your book. It's not going
So
to
slightly
be
different, yeah.
plagiarizing anybody else. It is
You're right.
just taking your book content and writing. Although you never know. You're right. I mean, you definitely need to check it anyway and make sure that it is, saying the right things and it hasn't inadvertently included something that shouldn't be there. And certainly stylistically, it's never exactly you.
Yes, you always have these articles that start with "Let's delve into the world of XYZ."
Yes,
Think, okay,
delving is a big AI thing. Delving, elevating.
Yeah, Sam Altman's written that bit.
Yeah.
Now, we have touched on it a bit briefly, but with the AI doing the writing, do you have any concerns about that writing being? Let me rephrase that. Now, we've touched on it just recently about using AI to do your writing. Do you have any advice for people who may be hesitant about having AI in their books? Because obviously people think a book is got to be written by them and it's an expression of exactly what they want to say. A lot of people might have some hesitations about using AI for their book. So what would you say?
Yes, I mean, we absolutely, in BookMagic or as publishers with Rethink Press, we absolutely do not suggest that you use AI generated content in your book. I mean, as publishers with Rethink Press, our publishing contract says that the author warrants that there is no AI generated content in the book. And if when we're editing, we find it, we take it back to the author and say, you need to rewrite this in your own words because it's just too dangerous, basically. We just don't know, what copyright issues are going to come up later. And in terms of writing the book with BookMagic, the app doesn't actually allow you to copy and paste AI generated content into your manuscript. You need to, I mean, I think it's personally and sort of professionally, I think it is really important to write your own content of your book. I think for a start with business books, your readers want to hear your voice. They do not want to hear, I think AI is sort of it kind of seduces you into thinking that it writes beautifully and it expresses things better than you can, and its grammar and punctuation and subtlety of writing is great. But actually, when you read it, it actually is very surface. It's not. It doesn't go into depth. It doesn't sound like a real person. And even if your reader is kind of unaware of AI, perhaps, or isn't kind of trying to make a distinction between whether you wrote it or whether AI did, I think they'll get kind of alienated by it, and it just isn't the way. I mean, I personally think writing is an expression of thought, and you need to express your thoughts in your way, and that's how your book will represent you and will make you the expert, the authority in your field, because it's how you think about it. It's how you've experienced life, business, clients, whatever.
Brilliant.
And so I think even if people feel are unsure about their ability to write, it is still going to be better with the help of an editor later on than handing it over to AI and thinking AI can do it better. I really, really do not believe it can. And not yet. Maybe at some point AI will get in your head and be able to interpret your thought processes. But at the moment, it definitely can't do that.
Yeah. It would just be called intelligence then, rather than artificial intelligence, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Nothing artificial about it.
So once you've got your book written, obviously that is the first step. Now the next part is that distribution. Now I know the main point of BookMagic is to get the book written in the first place, but what would an author do with it once they've got it written? Is Amazon the main place where you try and get them to sell it, or is it somewhere else?
Well, it depends. I mean, our authors, I suppose, like any other author, have basically three options for getting published. I mean, there's obviously a traditional publisher, which is unusual for an entrepreneur author to be able to attract a traditional publisher, because they just usually the market is too niche and the content is too specific Although some of our sort of the people I've coached and mentored through writing have gone on to get very successful traditional publishing contracts, and that's great. But that's then it's all taken care of. They don't have to worry about that distribution. At the other end of the scale, of course, there is DIY self-publishing, which a lot of people choose to do. I mean, I think that has its problems in as much as it's more complicated than people think, and in a way DIY self-publishing is a misnomer because you cannot do it yourself. You actually have to have professionals. You have to have a professional copy editor. I mean, never send a book to publication without proper copy editing. You need, I think, a professional cover designer in your genre. That's not just finding somebody on Fiverr who says, yeah, I can whack up a cover design for you. As you know very well, there's the difference between professional cover design and and a kind of amateur graphic designer. Then of course you're going to need decent type design and typesetting. You really need a proofreader of the typeset. When that's done, you're going to need somebody to convert your book to your manuscript to ebook format. And then there is the whole, as you say, the whole distribution end of it. So if you're self-publishing, you will be able to get your book up on Amazon, and there are other kind of online distribution platforms that will be available. Self-publishing is slightly more restricted than going with say professional publisher, whether that's traditional or hybrid, because a publisher will have accounts with a wider selection of distributors. There's different levels of getting books into bookshops themselves, physical bookshops, which again really only works properly for broad niche, for broad market books. I think if you've got a very niche book, you can't, it's difficult to get booksellers to actually buy your book and put them on the shelves, because they're probably only going to sell one copy in however long. And it's not in anybody's interest. And also it costs the author or the publisher money, because you've got to do upfront printing, and then if you don't sell them, you've potentially lost money on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's hybrid publishing, which we like to think of as the Goldilocks solution between traditional and DIY publishing, where Rethink Press is a publisher. We are a professional publisher, and we do exactly what a traditional publisher would do. It's just that the business model is different, and the author pays for the production of their book, but then they end up with a publisher who does all the distribution and is there for them after publication. So I think it's it's horses for courses, really.
I think there's lots of different options. I mean, self-publishing through Amazon, you're right. There can be a lot of work to it. It can be straightforward, I think, but you're not guaranteed anything. You could have a book which ends up not selling, but I guess the good advantage of doing it through Amazon is because your book is printed on demand. You don't have that upfront cost of printing lots of versions of the book.
Absolutely.
So you've got to work out what's best for you, I think.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, Amazon is whatever is the most important platform for any book to be on. I would say Amazon.
Yeah,
and I think you should always publish initially in print and in Kindle, in ebook format, and ideally at some point do an audiobook as well. Because I don't think the three I don't think having different formats doesn't reduce. I mean, if you have an audiobook, it doesn't mean fewer people will buy your print copies. They might, listen to the audiobook and then decide they want a print copy as well. I mean, it just gives you gives your readers more options, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think with non-fiction books especially, it seems, in my experience, and you might have noticed something differently, but I've noticed that non-fiction books tend to be more bought on paper, and fiction books seem to be more bought ebook format. And I'm just quite surprised about that, because you'd have thought with a lot of business books,
it's interesting, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. What sort of features can we expect from BookMagic in future?
So the next big things we're doing on BookMagic we are going to have an affiliate scheme, so that anybody who works with entrepreneurs or potential authors can be part of that and get a return on getting people into writing their books on BookMagic. And then next year we're going to make it an end-to-end process, so that you can not only write your book on BookMagic, but it will take you through the self-publishing and go through to your manuscript can get edited, roughly edited probably, and typeset and cover design and go up on KDP all through the BookMagic app. So it will be, write and publish your book with BookMagic, which is exciting.
Really exciting. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that when it comes through. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great chatting to you. I think it's absolutely fascinating talking about AI and seeing what's happening with this. And for a lot of people who may be a bit nervous about writing their book, I think it could be a really good option for them to get their book written a bit faster and with a bit of help. So if people want to get in contact with you, BookMagic.ai is the website for BookMagic. Is there any other ways you want people to get in contact with you? Yes, that's right.
Yes. And actually, I should say that you can start the process for free. You can do the whole values exercise and the positioning without having to pay a subscription. It's only when you start, if you decide that you then want to go forward and get into the planning and writing, that you pay a monthly subscription, which you can stop anytime. So I think it's good value.
Good. Yeah, no, it is good value, I think, as well. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to contact you as well, what's your website or your social media?
So that's the BookMagic app website. It is just bookmagic.ai, but also rethinkpress.com if you want to have a chat about publishing or about having, sort of in person as opposed to AI coaching or writing support with your book.
We'll put links to all those things in the show notes for this episode. Well, thank you very much for joining me. So just before we go, we've got one last question, and that is, what book do you recommend everyone should be reading?
Okay, so the book I think everyone should be reading is The Authority Gap by Marianne Seacart. I've forgotten exactly what the subtitle is, but it's something about why women have less authority than men and what to do about it, and that's one of my big issues at the moment. So I think everybody, and certainly not just women, but men should read that book and understand what's going on there.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's a good recommendation. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great chatting to you, and we will speak again soon.
Thank you so much, Teddy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but I'm not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1. Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance podcast. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, let me tell you about Publishing Performance, the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales, but I'm not really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books. And if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximize your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalized ad account manager to create your ad campaigns, to choose your best keywords, and to make adjustments in real time. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure that your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. Just go to publishingperformance.com to get started with Amazon ads for just $1.